In a land filled with wisdom and courage, a king devised a test to find the most worthy man to marry his daughter. Two suitors had to navigate a dangerous and unknown path, with their eyes closed, a trial that tested not just apparent bravery but also precision, trust, and wisdom. But in the end, did the one who moved faster reach the destination, or was it the one who measured each step with care and calm? In a vast land renowned for wisdom and power, there lived a wise and just king. He had a beautiful and kind daughter who would soon have to choose a worthy husband. But this choice was not going to be easy, as a special and challenging test awaited the suitors, a test that was far from ordinary and full of mystery. The king decided, with the help of his clever and loyal advisor, to arrange a test that would go beyond the traditional trials. He was looking for a man who was not only brave but also capable of confronting the unknown and hidden fears. This test was meant to measure not just courage, but also intelligence and the ability to trust one's senses, revealing the man truly deserving of the princess's hand. The king's advisor devised an ingenious plan. The two suitors would have to navigate a dangerous and unknown path while blindfolded. Their eyes would be covered, and they could rely only on their other senses. This test would reveal true bravery in the face of ignorance and the unknown, helping the king to identify the most worthy suitor. Two brave men from distant tribes were chosen as suitor Zama, and Kafo Zama was a quick, sharp, and daring young man known for his fast and bold decisions. In contrast, Kafo was a calm, thoughtful, and meticulous man who always carefully considered his actions before taking any step. Together with the king and the advisor, both suitors traveled to a region far from the palace. This region was a vast, endless desert filled with high cliffs and dangerous hills. There were no signs to guide them, and each misstep could lead them to deadly precipices. It was a place where only the bravest and most intelligent men could survive. The advisor handed each suitor a blindfold. They were required to put on these blindfolds and follow the king's orders. Neither of them knew how the test would end, but both hoped to succeed and win the heart of the king's daughter. As the test began, Zama was the first to step forward with high confidence and great speed. With the boldness he was known for, he moved quickly towards the unknown path, believing that his speed and decisiveness would guide him to the correct route and demonstrate his superiority. On the other hand, Kafo moved with more caution and calmness. He first stopped, listened to the sound of the wind, and felt the ground beneath his feet. Instead of rushing, he advanced slowly and with complete focus, trying to identify the correct path using his other senses. After a short while, Zama encountered the first obstacle, a large and steep rock. He clung to the rock with his strong hands and tried to climb it with great effort. However, without the ability to see, he couldn't know how much taller this rock was than he had imagined, or what dangers awaited him. Meanwhile, Kafo also encountered a similar obstacle. But instead of trying to climb the rock, he carefully sensed his surroundings and decided to find another path. He knew that quick decisions weren't always the best, and sometimes finding an alternative route could be life-saving. After much effort, Zama finally climbed the rock, but he was exhausted. As he stood at the top, he suddenly realized that on the other side was a dangerous cliff. With trembling hands, he barely managed to keep his balance and avoid a deadly fall. For a moment he was gripped by fear, realizing how costly his recklessness could have been. Meanwhile, Kafo continued to trust the sound of the wind and the feel of the ground, and instead of climbing the rock, he found another way around it. He adjusted his steps carefully and passed the obstacle without wasting much energy or encountering any danger. His cautious approach helped him move forward without any mishaps. The king and his advisor observed the actions of both suitors from a distance. The king remarked to his advisor, "This test requires more than just courage, it demands intelligence and precision." The advisor nodded in agreement and said, "When the eyes are closed, every choice becomes more complicated, and carelessness can come at a high price. Zama, having survived the exhaustion and the perilous cliff, decided to speed up again. He still believed that reaching the destination faster than Kafo would make him the winner. But once again, his high speed led him to another obstacle this time, a soft and treacherous sand dune. The sand dune Zama encountered was very soft and unstable. He couldn't properly place his feet in the sand, and with each step he took, he sank deeper into the ground. Stress and panic began to overwhelm him, as he realized he was trapped and didn't know how to escape this dangerous situation. If you have come this far and you liked the video, be sure to like the video, and let's continue the story. Meanwhile, Kafo, approaching the dune slowly, first touched the sand with his hands to feel how soft and unstable it was. He then carefully searched for a flatter path around the dune. Without stepping directly into the dune, he chose a different route and cautiously moved around it. Zama found himself stuck in the sand, and the more he struggled, the deeper he sank. He realized with difficulty that his haste and rush had led him into this trap. He tried to find a way out without wasting more energy, but he was caught in a state of stress and fear, unable to focus. Kafo, having avoided the sand dune, continued to move forward with caution and trust in his senses. With each step, he paid more attention to the sound of the wind and the feel of the ground beneath his feet. This focus and precision kept him safe from many dangers as he continued on the correct path. Eventually, Zama managed to escape the sand dune, but he had lost a lot of energy and could no longer move as quickly as before. A sense of despair began to grow within him, but he still hoped to reach the destination and win the test. Will Zama, relying on his speed and instinct, overcome this dangerous obstacle, or will his haste lead to an irreversible fall? Answer in the comments. Kafo encountered a river along his path. The water flowed so quickly and forcefully that crossing it without seeing anything seemed extremely dangerous. Kafo first listened carefully to the sound of the water and observed the different currents. He then searched for a part of the river where the current was weaker and crossing would be safer. Zama also reached the same river, but unlike Kafo, he didn't pay attention to the current and tried to cross it at high speed. He stepped into the water and moved forward, but the strong current pushed him back, and for a moment he was submerged, feeling the cold grasp of the water. Meanwhile, Kafo, having found a safe spot to cross, slowly and carefully made his way across the river. He measured each step with great focus and advanced without rushing. He knew that in this test, speed didn't matter as much as precision and concentration. Zama, shocked by the force of the water, now soaked and cold, finally managed to pull himself out of the river. He wondered if all his haste and speed had been worth it. Yet he still didn't give up and decided to continue his journey. After crossing the river, Kafo faced the final obstacle, a dense forest filled with tall trees and thick foliage. Without being able to see anything, he listened to the surrounding sounds and tried to determine the correct direction by feeling the wind's direction. With care and focus, he began to make his way through the trees, avoiding the last hurdle. Zama also reached the forest, but by now he lacked the energy and focus he once had. Exhausted and frustrated, he decided to rush through the trees, but with each step he collided with branches and foliage, stumbling along the way. He could no longer move forward as he once did, becoming increasingly disoriented in the thick forest. The king and his advisor, observing everything from a distance, knew the test was nearing its conclusion. The advisor thoughtfully said Zama had speed, but he lacked precision. He placed too much importance on acting quickly, which led to his downfall. The king smiled and replied, "In a world where nothing can be seen, speed isn't always the best approach." Kafo, with care and calmness, made his way through the forest and reached the final destination. He still didn't know how far ahead he was of Zama, but he was confident that he had taken the right path by trusting his senses. He waited patiently for the results, feeling satisfied with his performance. Zama, tired and disappointed, finally emerged from the forest, not knowing how far behind he was from Kafo. The confidence and speed he had started with were gone. All that remained was a faint hope of reaching the destination and acknowledging his mistakes. Both suitors reached the final point and removed their blindfolds. Zama, with a look of regret, realized that Kafo had arrived first. He was disappointed by his failure, but deep in his heart, he knew that his carelessness and haste had caused this defeat. The king smiled as he looked at both men and said, "This test was not just a test of courage, it was a test of precision, trust in one's senses, and patience." The advisor added, "You moved quickly, Zama, but you didn't make the right decisions. This test showed that speed isn't always the best way, and hasty decisions can lead to undesirable outcomes." The king then turned to Kafo and said, "You advanced with calmness and precision, trusting your senses. This is true bravery, the kind that stands firm in the face of ignorance." And the unknown Kafo humbly bowed his head, feeling proud, and thanked the king for his recognition. Zama, looking down in disappointment, realized he had learned a great lesson from this test, that haste and rushing are not always the best approach, and in facing the unknown, precision and calmness are more important than anything else. The king addressed both suitors and said, "You are both brave, but the one who deserves to marry my daughter is the one who can trust in his wisdom." And Precision Kafo was declared the winner of the test, and the king gave him permission to marry his daughter. Zama bid farewell to the king and returned to his tribe with a heart full of new experiences and lessons. He made a vow to himself to make more careful decisions in the future and to learn from the mistakes of the past. Zama knew that this defeat had taught him a valuable lesson that would make him more successful in the future. Kafo was chosen as the husband of the princess and began a new life with the king's daughter. The people of the tribe were pleased with the king's choice, as Kafo was a brave, wise, and calm man who could stand firm in the face of any challenge and lead the tribe into a new era of peace and prosperity. The story of this test spread throughout the tribe and reached the ears of everyone. The people learned many lessons from it and understood that speed and strength are not always the most important qualities. Rather, precision, calmness, and thoughtful consideration are more valuable in facing life's challenges. This test became a lesson for future generations. The advisor said to the king, "This test has shown us that in the face of the unknown, courage alone is not enough. Courage without wisdom and precision can lead to failure." The king nodded in agreement and said, "This is exactly the lesson the suitors were meant to learn from this test." Kafo and the king's daughter began their life together with happiness, and they were always remembered by the people as symbols of bravery and wisdom. They worked together, guiding the tribe through a new era of success and peace, bringing prosperity to their people. Zama never forgot his defeat, and throughout his life he constantly reminded himself of the importance of precision and calmness. Later on, he became one of the successful leaders of his tribe and always kept this important lesson in mind when making decisions. The story of the blindfolded test became one of the greatest life lessons in the tribe. The people always remembered this story and learned from it that true success comes from courage accompanied by wisdom and calmness, helping to avoid painful failures. Can courage without wisdom and precision lead to victory? Or is it ultimately calm and reflection that pave the way to success? Answer in the comments. If you like this story, I will be happy to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell and wait for the next video that we will share together. Take care until the next video.